Hey everyone, welcome to the Geo Curator call. Man, I don't even know which one we're at now. Is this number seven? Something like
Seven.
that. Yeah. Um, Great uh, to see everyone. Got a bunch of exciting things that have been happening. Last week we had our first community calls. So thanks to everyone who joined the breakout community calls. We hosted calls for the crypto space, the health space, and the AI space. Um, and we released the built-in community call feature. We, I think it worked mostly well. So big shout out to the team that worked on that. There were a few little things to fix around the edges, so we're working on that, and hopefully this week everything will be super smooth. I think one of the issues that we hit that we're aware of is when people are sharing their screens, it was kind of cropping that, and if someone was sharing code, it was a little bit hard. So we're working on a full screen view there, and we're working on automated publishing of the videos. That was not fully working yet, so that folks that can't make the community calls can easily watch the recordings afterwards. So we're going to see some great improvements to community calls and excited to keep that going this week. I think it's super important to have these breakout calls so that we can go in more detail in each of these areas because we don't really get to go in detail on ontology and on what people are building in this weekly call. Um, so we're going to have all of those same calls this week. We shared last week that we were going to be opening up some new spaces. And just before this call, I created a new World Affairs space. So right now we have around 200 people have joined these different, AI, health, and crypto spaces. Um, and just created this space right before the call. So if you'd like to be involved in world affairs, there's a lot that we're going to start doing this week. I'm going to share more a little bit later in this call. Um, there are some big things happening in the world right now, especially around the Iran situation. And um, you want to start getting some people together who want to help organize and structure some of the knowledge around what's going on that can hopefully be helpful. So, yeah, please join the space if you're interested in participating. All right, for today, let's start with an overview of how things are going with the content, what people have been publishing. Arturas, would you like to give us kind of a walkthrough of some of the most recent contributions?
Yep, sounds good. So just sent out the request to share.
You should be a co-host.
Yep, there we go. So as always, some contributions in each space. The curators are getting ready, some of the curators, to start publishing data at a larger volume, but here are some of the examples that we have so far. So we have the Ethereum Foundation team members. Added by Farida, who is actually an early access member of Geo for a while now. She's here since 2025 when we were doing the crypto news. And here we have the foundation members. And so this bounty was an interesting one. It was about adding Ethereum Foundation members, but some of them already existed on Geo. So she actually looked up which members already exist, and she added new ones based on that. And so this is looking pretty good. And also, a quick important note is that she also set up a tab view on the Ethereum Foundation page where it shows the team members. So this is great. This is an example of curator not adding the data, but also creating a nice setup how we can view that on the appropriate page. So that's a good example of some content. Then we can take a look at some curator highlights in AI repositories. So we have some information here. We have the web URL, GitHub stars for Hugging Face, AI compute infrastructure providers, super relevant. Google Cloud Platform, provider project, related topics. That's good for classification. Yeah, so that's for the AI. And for the health, we have antimicrobial resistance mechanisms, affected drug class. Okay, some relations with drug class. Example, pathogens, mechanistic category. Yeah, so this is quite, I'd say, health-specific ontology, which is good. Medical specialties, pediatrics, trauma surgery, and we have care setting, hospital, ICU, some information about it, and topics for organization, which is also great. Few additional things that I wanted to show. So here's a personal space of a curator, and having a nice personal space is, really good, by the way. So a cover image, that's nice. And here the curator is showcasing their own work. So we have research papers that the curator has added right here. And so attention is all you need. That's a big one. Let's take a look. So we have the URL, we have the authors, we have the citation count, code URL, publication date, topics, what was it about, research lab, venue. I would say solid, good, clear, simple ontology in the research papers, looking good. Extra effort moment, we have data sets that were referenced in the research paper, and we can go ahead and see how that looks. So that's nice. Yeah, so pretty good work there. It's a great example. And a quick note that the editors asked to show as well, which is we have GitHub repos of curators. So this is some of the data that is being published is actually being done through the SDK. So the curators have GitHub where we can see some of the data that they're working on. We have two GitHub repos to show right here. And that's also good. So keep in mind that we do have a developer channel on Discord. And if any questions arise for the technical curators, hop in there. We're going to help you out to get settled there. And we are ready to be reviewing your code as well as for your process of uploading data or working with data using SDK and API. Having a good GitHub repos is a great way to set it up, and then you can share it with your mentor editor, and we'll review it. We'll work with you on that. So that's a quick overview on the data that we have so far.
Awesome, great walkthrough, and yeah, really exciting contributions. So great work, everyone. On the point side of things, do we have an update on that? So we enabled our internal tools for editors to start assigning points at the end of last week. It didn't give them a lot of time to start assigning out the points, but Arturas or Armando, do we know where we're at with that? Have we started assigning points to anyone yet?
No editors have been assigned points yet. We are still in the process of reviewing the bounties. I would say, not enough bounties are fully submitted as a full proposal. Most of what we've shown is samples, right? And I would say this week is gonna be the time when we're gonna start assigning the points. Once we have the bounties, we have a clear points of reference of what a good bounty looks like, and then start the assigning process.
Okay, so I know people are eager to start seeing their points showing up. It sounds like we're waiting for some more proposals to come through to be able to really see what done looks like for a bounty. And so those should be coming soon. Editors have everything they need. So really as soon as today or tomorrow, I mean, we might start to see the first points. If you're waiting and you think that your proposal has been that your bounty should be complete, you can feel free to ping in the Discord in the public channels. I think it's better than private. I think things like this, we don't want to be pinging people in private channels. We can do that or just wait and we should see those coming through this week. Awesome. On the CSV import, that is another one that has taken our team some time to get dialed in, but it's getting really close. So thanks to everyone who's been waiting for our CSV import functionality. That should be ready in the next day or two. So keep an eye out there. We're excited to give you some great tools so you can bulk import all your content. So hang tight, and then now that we also have the ability to assign the points, hopefully we get a quick turnaround there from you publishing your CSV imported data to getting assigned points. So let's see how the week develops from that standpoint. Cool. All right. So for this week, we've got some exciting things that are going to be happening. We started talking about some of the stuff last week, but we're going to be going a lot deeper with this stuff this week. The two areas that we want to continue going deeper on is news and people. So want to share some things that we've started preparing to allow us to go a lot deeper on these two areas. And later this week, we are going to be releasing a new app. So you guys have seen Geo Podcasts, which is a really great app for browsing content and knowledge from podcasts. And we're going to be doing the same thing with news. So I'm going to show you guys an early preview of what we're doing there. So this is a nice little app, Geo News, that is pulling from the knowledge graph. All this content is published to Geo, and what we're doing is we're showing top-level news stories that are aggregated from different sources. And right now we're doing it for AI, crypto, and health, which are the spaces that we have. And we'll be expanding this to more spaces. So you can see a news story like this. You see a summary. It's really nice. And you see extracted claims from the article. And of course, these claims will point to the actual sources that they came from. And then what we also have that not a lot of these kind of news apps have is we show you the different perspectives. So you could have a story where, the perspectives are coming from, individuals that are part of the story, or it could be from communities. Maybe there's like a left and a right perspective, right? Or something like that. So being able to see if there's claims that are contentious, to like group those claims, so you can see what are the different perspectives on an issue. And then another thing that we have is timelines. So if you have, essentially something like a topic that we want to like curate into a timeline of events, so you can see, okay, what happened, and then something else happened, and they're all related, and you want to weave these together into, a story, an evolving story, right, that evolves over time. We can do that with timelines. So this is kind of a starting point here. Of course, there's a lot of things happening with AI. We'll be able to see it by topic, to extract out the people and projects that are referenced in these things, be able to track how things are evolving over time. So all of that with crypto news. Um, so yeah, I think this is really exciting for a few reasons. One, I mean, for me personally, I would use something like this as a newsreader, right? It's a really clean experience. We're not blasting ads and all these different things that make it like, we're not trying to hack people's attention with clickbait, right? Everything is really geared towards being as useful as possible, and as nice of a browsing experience as you can make. Um, and of course, as we like crowdsource contribution to these things, hopefully we can get into a lot more detail. We can keep things up to date. We can add more structure to the news that is happening. And I think it does kind of show a little bit, the power of being able to build customized UIs. And there's different apps that you can build on top of this stuff, but all on top of this interoperable knowledge graph. Um, so excited for people to play around with this. We're going to be releasing it, yeah, hopefully later this week. But in the meantime, we can already be publishing content that matches this ontology, right? So if I jump into, I guess, GeoGenesis here, and I like search for this, right? You can see the news story in the AI space. So here it is in GeoGenesis, where you can see the claims, the quotes, the perspectives, the sources, the summary. So it's all here in GeoGenesis and just displayed, in a more kind of native way here, with slightly different navigation. Um, so it's a nice way also to, in GeoGenesis, right? You could add any kind of knowledge, you can add even more information, but if it matches the structure, then it'll show up in the news app. Um, so that is Geo News. Um, the next thing that we're going to be going deeper on is people. And I think it's really important to be able to structure, quality information around people so we can start to get a better sense of, who's contributing what, and that can help feed like our governance. I think, identity, reputation is a really key thing of what we're doing to help build a meritocracy where people that, have more demonstrated ability, have more power in the system. And the first step to doing that is being able to actually, structure and represent people's contributions that they've made to an industry. So going further, I showed a quick version of this last week, but going further now on the People app, where you can see, projects or products that somebody's worked on, see, key contributions that a person has made. So this is my own profile here. See my work history. These dates are not all correct. I'm going to fix the dates. But you get something that looks a bit like a LinkedIn. You can see somebody's work history, their education history, and then speaking, talks that people have given, make it easy to kind of see all of somebody's talks, all of maybe the podcasts and interviews that they've done, extracting, right, claims and things from there. Of course, both from the talks, from the podcasts, can start to give a lot of richness to the ideas that people are sharing. Doing the same with blog posts, maybe even pulling in tweets. So you have your short form posts. Later people are more active on different social networks. Maybe we can pull together, aggregate, content that is shared on different networks, and start to really get a sense for the ideas people are sharing, the work that they've done, whether it's working at a company or whether it's more externally visible, projects that people have contributed to. We can start to get a really nice picture of people and the work that they've done. So This is another one where I haven't kind of published this yet, working on it internally, but already we can start to publish content that matches that as well, right, on Geo. So we search for myself. We can see all of this content here. See, this is in the crypto space, so this is already kind of a multi-space entity, right, with pluralism, where we can see, here's in my personal space how I represent myself, and you can see that there's content around me that's also published to the crypto space. See what's happening with this here. It's because we don't have aggregation, that's why. So this data was published just to the crypto space, and you can aggregate that all and to get a full picture of somebody. So cool. So there's lots of things that people can continue to work on this week within the existing bounties. Hoping that more people want to contribute to news. Very excited to get started on world affairs now that you've seen what news can look like. It would be really awesome to get to, high quality starting point with news and topics and timelines and things in world affairs. For people who are going deep on industries, AI, crypto, health, maybe people can start to publish more detailed profiles on notable people. And I'll share out the people app so you can see what that looks like within that context as we start to aggregate richer profiles on notable people in these spaces. So that's one lens of work that we're going to be focusing on this week on top of whatever it is that people are already working on. And next, so really what we're doing here is we're just going to share a bunch of interesting ideas where people could be focused on, and of course, you get to choose your own adventure. So next, we want to show some work that we're doing to try to give people ideas of content that they can create that is going to create a lot of leverage for us as a project to help get people excited and want to contribute to Geo. So Adam, I know you've been doing some thinking around this and would love for you to share what kind of things people might be able to contribute to there.
Hey everyone, just going to share my screen. Let me know if you see everything. Just prepared a few slides so that I can walk you guys through some ideas, both ideas in terms of kind of projects that we want people to work on and ideas in terms of the types of visualization that we think would be great. So yeah, this week we just kind of wanted to bring the community in a little bit into some of the thinking that we've been having. And one of the key things that we've been telling each other as a team is, how do we show rather than tell? How do we publicly demonstrate the value of Geo, particularly to people that might not really know or might not have heard of a knowledge graph before? And I think the value of something like Geo grows exponentially the more data you have, inside of it, because it allows you to have more and more relations that become queryable and actually generate some insight. But we're at a point now where we're really trying to seed a base layer and therefore demonstrate the power of Geo. And for that, we see kind of three things that can really help. One is when you're able to see unexpected insights. Two is when you're able to explore use cases. And three is when you're able to actually interact with real data. So our question and what we want to speak about today with you is, over the next couple of weeks, what are some of the projects that can help us really showcase the power of Geo? And the things that we're looking for are, some projects that tie back to surprising insights, some compelling visualizations that we can make from the data that's hosted on Geo, and some things that people can really use. If you're, I know we have a lot of domain experts. Whether you're working in health, in AI, it's always really, really cool when you guys can generate or help us generate some of these cool ideas, and people in your industry might be missing something. So this is kind of a long list, and I'm going to walk you through a few of the examples. But I just wanted to take the time to kind of remind people of what's so special about a knowledge graph, and what's the difference between a knowledge graph and a database, the traditional database. And I think some of the things that we want to demonstrate is really around how a knowledge graph creates relational data, relational entities, creates relationships between things. And there's a lot of these questions that you see on screen, um, that will be able to be connected to other, big questions that we might have. If we start with one of the concrete examples that I quite like here. Oops, let me just bring up my screen. One of the first examples that we have here is global crime comparison. For those of you that don't speak French, and that have never really seen this weird snail, this is actually a map of Paris. It's a heat map that shows, the incidence of violent crime in Paris. One of the things that's interesting with crime, it's very easy to get crime crime numbers in a database, and to create a map like this. What's more difficult is when you look at it globally. How do you compare crime globally? How do you benchmark, New York versus Paris versus London, when all of the crime statistics out there are quite difficult to standardize? The way that Paris is going to be reporting on crime is going to be very different to the way that Los Angeles reports on crime, and very different to how London reports on crime. And what Geo allows us to do is to standardize a bit this data by mapping specific data points to a category that we see it fits in. So one of the interesting things that we'd like to work on, and we think this can be done, relatively quickly, can generate some really compelling visualizations, is to work on a way to compare crime levels between cities on a kind of global scale. One of the ideas we had, we can start with a few major global cities. It'd be really cool to see, for example, London, Paris, New York, Tokyo, or something like that, in Mumbai. And to kind of normalize violent crime incidents for like prorated for populations. And this could allow us to really quickly have a tool that generates benchmarks and kind of heat maps and comparison tools. And you could say, okay, I want to compare this type of crime between these two cities, or between these two states. So we want to really start mapping this kind of ontology, because we think that as a low-hanging fruit, quite quickly, it can help us generate some compelling visualizations for the public. One of the other examples, and a lot of you have probably heard of this. If you haven't yet, then that's great. This was actually brought in by one of our curators called Pierrick, who had a particular interest in kind of helping people compare the cost of procedures based on their geography. So a lot of the hospitals in the US now, by law, have to publish the cost for a specific procedure. But it's very difficult to compare the actual cost if you're getting a knee surgery, and if you live in, in Austin, Texas. It's very difficult to compare the cost between different hospitals, when actually the cost can be really, really different. So as kind of a small MVP, we kind of want to create something where we're able to structure this data, scrape it and pull it into Geo. We have on one side, procedures, on the other side, the price for these procedures. And then we'll be able to kind of create a small explorer where we actually can compare data between different hospitals for specific procedures. Depending on the complexity of this, we'll probably try to expand it, so that it's US wide. Third example, as we're going to be opening the foreign affairs and the US politics spaces, and based on everything that's kind of happening at the moment, as you can imagine, one of the really interesting examples that we thought was, data around global arms sales. And it's actually very interesting. A few countries control a large majority of the exports of arms, and that obviously creates some interesting geopolitical ties, but it's very difficult to actually understand what kind of ties there are, who's exporting what. But a lot of this data is public. So we thought it'd be quite interesting to kind of look at geopolitical alliances um, and kind of map arms export between countries so that we can kind of understand a little bit better the relationships between people in this current context where you have, major major powers at play and big strategic questions around, alliances and global defense networks. A fourth example, so the disease treatment landscape. So this was one that came with the tagline of, there's some surprising insights, but if you don't visualize them, it can be quite difficult to actually integrate. And the insight that came was that, most diseases don't actually have a cure. There's a lot, one of the reasons for that is there's a lot of, rare diseases. And a lot of these rare diseases don't even have a treatment, don't have an approved treatment, don't have a cure. And there's also a lot of diseases that have treatment, but not really a cure. We're already starting to have quite a lot of data when it comes to mapping out, drugs that are approved, mapping out diseases. Now, one of the interesting things would be to connect drugs to diseases and also map out really and identify, which diseases have a treatment, which have a cure, and which have nothing at all approved. So we should be able to do that with a bit more data, but already going off some of the things that we have inside Geo. And then a fifth example, for those of you that were part of, I think it was last week's community call, we had a curator spotlight, and Kevin actually showed what he's been working on. So extracting a lot of the information that sits online around kind of drugs. He's been kind of creating what we call a decentralized drug database. And the idea for this is that it's a way for us to be able to query and gain a lot of information, sourced information from drugs. And then moving forward, we can add a lot more information to each of these drugs, map them to specific treatment scenarios, map them to specific populations, and this can help us understand and answer some of the most difficult questions today, where actually LLMs are kind of struggling with, what drugs treat a condition. And that's, very basic. But if you go into, what drug treats, what drug should I give to my baby if he's, hyperventilating and he's already taken XYZ and he happens to have, um, this specific condition. Like that's a very specific question, and the potential downside to like not answering it correctly is very, very high. And actually, LLMs are not very good when it comes, or not good at all when it comes to giving specific interaction information that's not really generic. What are the contraindications? What drugs interact with each other? All of those. So the idea is we want to expand a little bit on what's already being built by Kevin. We're going to ingest all of this information that Kevin has and bring it into Geo. And then we want to start mapping additional properties to the drugs to go towards having an explorer that allows us to query and answer some of these questions as an example. So yeah, I'll stop there. Maybe I'll pull this again if some of you kind of want to have a look. We're working on this, and we're engaging one-on-one with some of the curators that we've seen really, really great work from. We want to give everybody a chance to choose a project that they really like, that we think can have a high impact on a short-term basis, can generate some really cool visuals. And also, we want to give you guys the chance to propose a potential project that you'd like to work on based on some of these concepts that we think are important.
Yeah, great walkthrough and some really great ideas there. So yeah, I think to summarize some of that, um, I think, the first few weeks we've been focused on really learning how to structure ontologies. We created a lot of these kind of small bounties. We're going to continue to create bounties, but really great opportunity once you start getting comfortable to start thinking about, maybe some more interesting, deeper projects that you could get into, and we'd love to, help support you in that. I think at this stage of where we're at in Geo, we would love to have, in-depth, but also bite-sized projects that can demo well. Because I think it's a great time to start to, share more publicly around, different ideas to really, help give people tangible examples of things that you can do by structuring knowledge into a knowledge graph. And so thinking of projects and ideas that can really demonstrate the utility of having an interconnected knowledge graph, I think is, a really exciting place to start. And of course, we'll be able to build and build and build on top of this stuff because it all really compounds. And so, one thing that we're going to be working on that we haven't released yet is better tools for synchronizing between like a local graph database and Geo. So, for a lot of this stuff, if you're thinking about these projects, of course, we want to get the content published to Geo. There's also value in having it in a local graph database too. And we'll be working on tools to make synchronizing that easier. But feel free for some of these projects, if you want to do something where you're just putting it in a local graph database, that is a totally great place to start as well. Can be a cool way to kind of visualize stuff in kind of a graph view. So don't shy from that if that's something that's interesting to you. One thing I'll kind of call out here is we're big fans of Falcor DB. A lot of people use Neo4j is kind of probably the most popular graph database. Falcor DB is Cypher compatible, so it's the same query language. It's basically compatible with Neo4j, but it's a lot faster. So, if you're interested in playing around with graph databases, curious if people want to play around with that, could be an interesting way to go. But the output of this, right, can be anything from publishing the data to Geo, where then we can create visualizations on top of it. So I think that's a pipeline that we're interested in to see, can we get people to, well, first, can we conceive of good projects that are kind of self-contained that will demo well, have somebody publish the content for that, and then somebody on our team can work on creating a nice visualization that we could, share externally. So that is a really great useful flow. If you guys want to create your own like video walkthroughs and demos of, interesting interconnected graph data that you're creating, that can be really interesting and is something you can do. So all of this is under this umbrella of show, don't tell, which is a big thing we're going to be pushing for, and excited to work on some interesting projects with y'all to help get the word and ideas out there, get people thinking about, the value of interconnected knowledge. Cool. So between that, news and people, hopefully some really great ideas for people to think on. Of course, you're welcome to work on existing bounties and things that you're doing. There's a lot that we can be doing in our initial spaces to continue to flesh things out. So these are just ideas, and it is a choose your own adventure. All right. Are there any other updates or demos or anything that people want to discuss? I think we covered a lot of content. So yeah, we do have some new features coming, some improvements to power tools have been rolling out if anyone's been using that. And we'll post an update. Maybe we'll send an email when we have the CSV import ready. Has everything been working smoothly with the editors? I know they've been working really hard, meeting one-on-one with folks, helping to onboard people. Big shout out to the editors who've been doing an incredible job. Very much appreciate the hard work of everybody there. And hopefully people are getting to a point where they're starting to feel a level of comfort now on the ontologies, on publishing content, and we can start to go deeper. All right, so if you're interested, please join the World Affairs space. We'll be very excited to see people there, and excited to see people dive into richer projects throughout the week. So yeah, let us know if you need anything, and otherwise, cheers and have a really great week, everyone. Thank you.